Welcome back to a brand new vlog. As I mentioned in the last vlog, we're gonna be doing something special this time around. We're gonna be building a new fence here at Eisei-en using a very special technique called Sugi or YAKISUGI. Now, YAKISUGI is a technique where you take boards made out of cedar and you burn or char them. Traditionally in Japan, the boards would have been set up in a triangle and a fire would have been lit underneath them so that the internal portion of the wood would have been burned, and that would have been rolled and rolled and rolled until the entire interior of the wood was totally charred. Now, what this did was it preserved the wood. It also made the wood a bit more flame retardant so it wouldn't set on fire again, because of course all of the buildings in Kyoto and most of Japan would have been made out of wood in the past, and if a fire broke out on one side of the city, it would burn the entire city down. So in order to prevent that from happening again, the wood would have been burned and it would have been applied as siding on all of the buildings. Now, of course, here we're not worried about a fire happening, but I want to add a nice aesthetic feel to the garden, and we're going to do that by putting up a YAKISUGI cedar fence right behind me on these posts here. So I'm going to take you over to the pile of wood, show you all of the items that we have so that we can actually make this fence, and I'm going to teach you how this process works. So let's head over there and check out the wood and the other items. Okay, so here's what we need to make the YAKISUGI cedar fence. We've got cedar pickets here. These you can pick up at any Lowe's or Home Depot. They're about $3 a piece, super cheap. They are Western red cedar, so they're going to last a long time when we put them up on the fence outside. They don't warp either like pine does, which is great. So once we install these, they'll stay put in perpetuity, hopefully. Now, if you notice here, these are dog-eared pickets as well. I don't like the look of this, so we're gonna be cutting this off flush, but we're gonna do that after we char this, just to make the process a little bit easier. Now, the next item you need to get is a propane tank, which I've got right here. Obviously, you can pick these up just about anywhere, just a standard propane tank, and we're gonna be using this, attaching it to a roofing torch. Now, this is the main key item here that you're gonna need to do your YAKISUGI fence. And we're gonna attach this to the propane tank here, we're gonna light it up, and we're gonna char all sides of each piece of cedar. So this process is gonna take a little while, but it's gonna make these look spectacular. So I'll show you what it looks like once we burn the cedar. Okay, so before we char the cedar, I wanna show you what we're gonna be charring it on. If you notice down here, this is a piece of limestone that's completely uncovered here. I mentioned in previous vlogs that our property here at the nursery is covered in limestone. A lot of that limestone peeks out through the grass, so I've chosen an area where we have a nice big flat piece of limestone to burn this wood on. I don't want to be burning it on the dry grass, which might catch on fire and burn our whole property down, which would not be a good thing. I also have a hose nearby just in case the grass does catch on fire. I can put that fire out. So let's set up some of that cedar here and start burning those individual pieces. Okay, so now that we've charred the wood, we need to rub all of that ash off using this tool right here. This is just a standard brush that you can attach to a broom handle, but it's a bit of a hard bristled brush, so it makes it easier to scrape all of that ash off of the wood. The reason we want to get the ash off of there is because we're going to be staining this wood after this process, and if that ash is still on there, the stain's not going to absorb properly and it's going to flake off and look weird. So we need to scrub that off with this brush, so let's do that next. Now that the wood's been charred, brushed off, and cleaned with water, we're gonna set it here to dry for the next day or so before we stain it. Now, if you take a look here, the wood looks really, really nice just with the burn feature to it here. The problem is if we don't stain this or at least put a transparent sealer on it, this coloration will start to wear off over time, and it's just gonna look like your standard cedar that you put up on a fence that's weathered naturally over time. I wanna try to retain as much of this character in the wood as possible, so we're gonna be staining it with a walnut color that's going to add a little bit more coloration to the wood, but a transparent walnut so that you don't lose that nice striated look to the wood itself. That's the main feature of this, and that's the reason why we burned it in the first place, was to draw out those striations in the wood and give it character. So I don't want to hide that by using something like a paint that's going to cover it up. So we're going to be using a transparent walnut stain on top of this to hold in and lock in that color. Here is our completed YAKISUGI fence. I think it turned out pretty good. What do you guys think? Now, if you notice, when you put a bonsai in front of it, the colors really pop. It's a great background for a tree like this or any bonsai. So I'm really excited to have this as the first thing that you see when you walk in to Eisei-en, just beyond the gate.
Home to the mountain.
I have to head to Japan in a couple of days. I'm gonna take you guys along for that trip, so be on the lookout for upcoming vlogs and videos. Until then though, take care, we'll see you guys next time.
Home to the mountain.